Good evening from Atlanta, Georgia. So today was the big Fenix update. It came as a surprise since Fenix had announced it would be a Tuesday or Wednesday release. I already did one flight on the A319, and now I'm going to use the A321. And on top of that, I've added the FS2 crew first officer. I'm supposed to have the animated first officer, but the animation did not generate. So I'm going to look into that later. I just want to, the most important thing for me really is to make sure the flows are taking place. So I already did the cockpit preparation checklist with my first officer, Stephanie. We're going to do the departure briefing, and then we'll go through the rest of the checklist. I am using Beyond ATC to pull the traffic because the same tensions traffic model is still in beta mode and is still not very ideal. So my Beyond ATC is going to be pretty much muted, except that you'll see the traffic. And then I have my same intentions, cabin crew talking to me during the flight, as well as the normal ATC communications that come with same intentions. So here we go.
E6. Dew point 19er. Altimeter 3007. Density altitude 3600 feet. Arriving runways 28, 27 left, 26 right. Departing runways 27 right, 26 left, 28. Advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information, Quebec.
Good evening, Atlanta clearance. Delta 2600 has information, Quebec, requesting IFR clearance to Raleigh-Durham.
I am working on that clearance. Stand by. Delta 2600, squawk 1775, expect runway 27 right.
Atlanta clearance, Delta 2600, cleared to Raleigh-Durham via Gary 2 departure, then as filed. Climb and maintain 10,000. Expect flight level 350 10 minutes post-departure. Departure frequency is 124.6, squawk 1775. Anticipate runway 27 right.
Delta 2600, read back correct.
Are you ready for the departure briefing? Are you ready for the departure briefing? Okay, so that part of FS2 crew does not seem to be working right now. But we have departure on runway 27 right, and we're going to be making left turn after departure and just flying south of the airfield before heading northeast to Raleigh-Durham. No threats in the area. We're going to be rotating at 162 and expect to be cruising at flight level 350. Relatively short flight. The distance on our flight plan was 360 nautical miles. Before start checklist.
Parking brake.
Set.
Takeoff speeds and thrust.
Set and checked.
V1 5 8 VR 1 6 2 V2 1 6 2 flex temp 4 8 degrees. Windows.
Closed.
Beacon.
On.
Before start checklist completed.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Atlanta ground, Delta 2600, requesting push and start.
Bypass pin inserted.
Delta 2600, push and start approved, tail north.
Push and start approved, tail north, Delta 2600.
Locking gear. Release parking brakes, please. Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Cabin is ready for departure. Cabin crew, all doors in flight and cross-check. Welcome aboard Delta Airlines Flight 2600, departing from Atlanta and heading to Raleigh. My name is Taylor, and on behalf of Delta Airlines, I would like to introduce our captain, Luis, and our first officer, Stephanie. Joining us in the cabin today are my fellow crew members, Emily, James, Sarah, and Michael. Now, let's go over some important safety information. To fasten your seatbelt, insert the metal fitting into the buckle until you hear a click. To release it, lift the buckle. Please keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated, as the seatbelt sign may be turned on at any time. In the unlikely event of a loss of cabin pressure, Oxygen mask will drop from the panel above you. Pull the mask towards you to
Please
start
set
the
parking
flow of
brake.
oxygen. Place it over your nose and mouth, securing it with the
Unlocking
elastic
gear.
band. Remember to secure your own mask before assisting others. For those of you seated in exit rows, please take a moment to review the safety information card located in the seat pocket in front of you. In case of an evacuation, please leave your luggage behind and proceed to the nearest exit. The emergency exits on this A320 are located at the front, middle, and rear of the cabin. Should we need to evacuate, please follow the illuminated exit signs and move quickly to the nearest exit. We will be cruising at 35,000 feet today, and the estimated flight time is approximately 54 minutes.
I got very used to the first officer turning on the fuel pumps on the Boeing FS2 crew. Gotta remember to turn them on the Airbus.
And we wish you
Those little details.
Left is clear, right is clear.
And I guess GSX did not close all the doors automatically. Okay, ground, we see the pin. Thank you for the guidance. See you next time. Taxi checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flap setting.
Set and checked.
Config 1+F. Radar and predictive wind shear system.
On and auto. Set and checked.
Engine mode selector.
Set and checked.
Ecom memo.
Set and checked.
Taxi checklist completed. Flight controls.
Cancel checklist.
Roger.
Atlanta ground. Delta 2600 requesting taxi to the active.
Delta 2600, taxi to runway 27 right via 2 northeast, 2 southeast, Lima, Lima Bravo.
Runway 27 right, 2 northeast, 2 southeast, Lima, Lima Bravo, Delta 2600.
Good evening, Atlanta Tower. Delta 2600 holding short, runway 27 right.
Delta 2600 Atlanta Tower, runway 27 right, winds 340 at 7. RNAV football, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 27 right, RNAV football, cleared for takeoff. Delta 2600.
Lineup checklist. Lineup checklist.
Takeoff runway.
Set and checked. Set and checked.
Runway 27 right, confirmed.
Set and checked.
Packs 1 and 2.
Set and checked.
Lineup checklist completed.
On runway 27 right.
Thrust set 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Delta 2600, contact departure on 124.6.
Switching to departure on 124.6. Delta 2600. Atlanta departure, Delta 2600, evening, climbing past 2000.
Delta 2600, Atlanta departure, radar contact, climb and maintain 10,000 direct football.
Climb and maintain 10,000 direct football, Delta 2600.
I mentioned it earlier today with my first flight with this fully native version now of the A320 Fenix series. The manual handling, I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus side stick, also using the Thrustmaster Airbus throttle quadrants. The manual handling is amazing.
Climb and maintain flight level 210.
Climb and maintain flight level 210, Delta 2600.
The manual, I'm obviously not a real-world pilot, but the manual handling with this updated fly-by-wire that Fenix did for this for the big update, it's amazing. Doesn't require a lot of corrections, very small inputs, and you get great manual control of the aircraft. Okay, I guess I also have to set the transponder myself.
Delta 2600, climb and maintain flight level 240.
Climb and maintain flight level 240, Delta 2600.
Yeah, so a couple of things I need to differentiate between the FS2 crew for Airbus compared to the one I've been using for my Boeing 777s and my Boeing 737s is the first officer will not turn on TCAS and will not turn on the fuel pumps before startup. So there's a few little details that are gonna differentiate between the two programs. So just again, little details to remember. The differences between how the software handles different aircraft types. This morning I also mentioned that compared to the PNDG airplanes that I've been mostly flying, the performance on this new FS24 native version of the Airbus, it can stutter here and there compared to PMDG. So I think Fenix needs to continue to optimize this particular Airbus series just to make it a little smoother. When you look at my specs on my videos, my specs are top end right now, so there's no reason for them to be stuttering.
Dear guests, we have just climbed above the safe altitude, and I am pleased to inform you that the use of electronic devices is now allowed. Feel free to connect to our onboard Wi-Fi service if you wish. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy the flight.
Delta 2600, climb and maintain flight level 280.
Climb and maintain flight level 280, Delta 2600.
Delta 2600, climb and maintain flight level 320.
Climb and maintain flight level 320, Delta 2600.
Delta 2600, contact Atlanta Center on 119.375.
Switching to Atlanta Center on 119.375, Delta 2600. Atlanta Center, Delta 2600, evening, climbing past 15,000 for flight level 320.
Delta 2600, Atlanta Center, good evening, altimeter 30.00.
Another thing to point out with the big Fenix update is that we finally are getting the very basic Asobo weather returns that you can see here. Again, not fully accurate, not fully three-dimensional, but it's something rather than nothing. I'm going to keep stressing that. PMDG already decided to follow through with this, as well as the Aorus with the CRJ. INI builds with their A350 series, so now Fenix caught up to that. So now we have some semblance of a weather radar. I mentioned this before in previous videos. When you're flying in the US East Coast, in the US Midwest, in the afternoons in the summer, it's very common to get thunderstorms, and so you definitely want to see them on your radar. Transition set standard.
Delta 2600, Atlanta Center, climb and maintain flight level 350.
Climb and maintain flight level 350, Delta 2600.
Delta 2600. Expect the Dreamster 2 arrival. Plan for descent in maybe 20 minutes.
Expect the Dreamster 2 arrival. Descent in about 20 minutes. Delta 2600.
2600. Contact Jacksonville Center on 134.975.
Switching to Jacksonville Center on 1. Jacksonville Center, Delta 2600, evening, climbing through flight level 310.
Delta 2600, Jacksonville Center, good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached cruising altitude. We will begin our snack and drink service shortly. Today, we have some delightful options, including our savory cheese and cracker platter and a refreshing fruit cup. will also have items available from the Delta shop for you to browse. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you enjoy the flight.
Delta 2600 approaching top of descent and ready for lower.
Delta 2600, descend via Dreamster 2 into Raleigh.
Descend via Dreamster 2 into Raleigh, Delta 2600.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now left our cruising altitude and have started our approach to Raleigh. At this time, we kindly ask everyone to return to your seats, stow your tables, and fasten your seatbelts. Please note that the use of the lavatories is no longer permitted. We appreciate your cooperation as we prepare for landing. Thank you.
2600, contact Washington Center on 118.925.
Switching to Washington Center on 118. Washington Center, Delta 2600, evening. We're descending through flight level 190.
Washington Center, good evening. Delta 2600, Washington Center, contact Raleigh approach on 124.905.
Contacting Raleigh approach on 124.905. Delta 26. Raleigh approach, Delta 2600, evening. We're descending through 16,000.
Delta 2600, Raleigh approach. Good evening. Raleigh altimeter 30.00. Expect the ILS runway 5 left approach into Raleigh via OT tows.
Expecting the ILS runway 5 left approach via OT tows. Delta 2600.
Delta 2600, speed 250 knots. Delta 2600, descend and maintain 7,000.
Descend and maintain 7,000. Delta 2600.
Captain, cabin is ready. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now on our final approach into Raleigh. Please turn off all electronic devices and stow them until we arrive at the gate. Ensure your tray tables are put away, your seats are in their full upright position, and your seat belts are fastened. We appreciate your cooperation as we prepare for landing. Thank you.
Delta 2600, direct OT tows, descend and maintain 6,000 cleared for the ILS runway 5 left approach, OT tows, transition.
Direct OTOs. Descend and maintain 6,000. Cleared for the ILS runway 5 left approach, OTOs transition. Delta 2600.
So there is still a bit of a micro stutter when you just look at this outside view, like every 2 or 3 seconds. So again, I'm not complaining, but if I do compare this to what I've been getting out of PNDG, for example, with their 777s in FS24, I am not getting the micro stuttering with them. So I know this is going to be a question of Fenix is figuring out how to further optimize their product. And no big deal. So far so good with this flight. It's been a pretty nice flight. Approach checklist.
Borrow ref.
Set and checked.
3, 0, 0, 2, set.
Set and checked.
Minimum.
Set and checked.
Auto brake.
Set and checked.
Engine mode selector.
Set and checked.
Approach checklist completed. Checked.
Delta 2600, contact Raleigh Tower on 119.3.
Switching to Raleigh Tower on 119.3, Delta 20. Raleigh Tower, Delta 2600, evening. We're established on the ILS approach for runway 5 left.
Delta 2600, Raleigh Tower, roger. Delta 2600, Raleigh Tower, wind 080 at 7. Runway 5 left, clear to land.
Runway 5 left, clear to land. Delta 2600.
Radar altimeter alive. Sync rate. Checked. Checked. 1000. Checked. Checked.
1000. Landing checklist.
Ecom memo.
Set and checked.
Landing checklist completed. Sync rate.
Approaching 05 left.
$500.
$100 above. Minimums.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard.
Spoilers. Reverse green. To sell. $70 knots.
Delta 2600, welcome to Raleigh. Contact ground on 121.9er.
Switching to ground on 121.9er.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raleigh.
Raleigh ground, Delta 2600, evening. We're clear of runway 5 left and ready to taxi to the gate.
Atlanta, and arriving here at Raleigh-Durham
Delta 2600, Raleigh ground, taxi to A1 via Bravo 5, Bravo Delta Alpha. Have a good day.
Thank you for flying with us
Taxi
today.
to A1 via
We
Bravo
kindly
5,
ask you to
Bravo
remain
Delta
seated
Alpha.
until the aircraft has reached its final parking position. As a fun fact, Raleigh is known as the City of Oaks due to its many oak trees, and it is also home to the North Carolina state capitol. In the name of Captain Luis, First Officer Stephanie, and the entire crew, we wish you a pleasant stay in Raleigh. If you have any connections, please check your boarding passes for the details. Thank you.
After landing checklist. After landing checklist.
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing checklist completed. So this is my second flight, like I mentioned earlier, since the Fenix BFU was released earlier today. Need to do a little bit better in the flare there at the end. I think I just let the airplane fall too fast. I should have flared this a little bit earlier, or just had a lower descent rate. But that's just getting used to the Airbus again. I've been on pretty heavy Boeing and CRJ mode the past couple of weeks, so more practice obviously. But again, from the moment I released the autopilot, the manual handling on this aircraft is fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. I'm very impressed. So I was waiting for GSX to come on, but it's thinking. I'm gonna head over to Charlie 9, and unless there is more room where the other deltas are, yeah, I'm gonna go to Charlie 9. I noted this earlier, but it just seems, well, I noted this in previous videos. It seems that GSX is getting a lot of updates, but it is not as stable. Well, stable is probably the wrong word. It's not as reliable as it used to be. There's always something is out of sequence, and right now GSX is not even starting up. So I am using the Beyond ATC injection, so that's why there was an airplane taking off when I landed. So we're pretty much ignoring that traffic. But I prefer the Beyond ATC injection because the same tensions injection is still in beta mode. So there's going to be a few mistakes, inaccuracies really. So in the meantime, this Beyond ATC injection is very true to the real world as far as flight times, parking positions, aircraft types. So that makes for a very good flight experience.
I'm also simulating twisting the thrustmaster side stick, twisting it left and right to serve as a tiller. So I'm overcorrecting, so it's gonna take me just making fewer corrections on it to get some accurate ground steering. So I want to get plenty of practice with this. But I do like somewhat simulating the tiller as opposed to relying on the pedals for ground turns. Taylor, thank you for the great service back there. Great job as always. Have a good evening in Raleigh. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Captain Luis. I appreciate your kind words. Have a great evening in Raleigh, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our final parking position. Captain Luis and the cabin crew are now saying goodbye. We wish you a nice stay here in Raleigh or safe ongoing travel.
I think my EFB is frozen. I was gonna operate the jetway from here and the doors from here. Let me keep clicking here on the arrow. Yeah, it seems to be dead. No big deal. Again, this is the initial release of the big Fenix update. Yeah, and I hear those jokes. The big effing update. We can call it the big effing update too. And it's a really nice update. So again, bottom line with this update, the Fenix Airbus series is now FS24 native. And I'm seeing the difference. Great visuals, great systems handling, great fly-by-wire. It'll take a little bit of getting used to just the stick movements on manual flight, just from lack of practice, because I do want to have a smoother touchdown than the one I had today. So I'm going to keep working on that. So I hope you enjoyed this flight, this overview of the updated Fenix Airbus. I'm going to try GSX one more time to see if we can get some deboarding going. If not, we're going to call it a day. Okay, it's not working. We're going to call it a day. So have a good evening if you're here in the US East Coast like me, or good morning if you're in the other side of the world. Just have a great day and happy flights on Flight Sim. See you soon.